this day I learned in the AME church that I grew up in. Even though I don't subscribe to organized religion now as an adult, I consider myself a very spiritual person, and that the foundation of that started in the AME church that I grew up in. And church was wonderful for me too because it presented yet another performance opportunity. I loved to perform as a kid, and like church was great for that. I was an usher and I sang in the choir, and I seemed to be one of those kids always getting up and making speeches like whenever I could. So not much has changed apparently. But unfortunately, church too was another place that I learned where who I was authentically was not only a problem, it was a sin, it was blasphemy, and it meant I might rot in hell and eternal damnation. So in 6th grade, I started going through puberty, and this is a very difficult time for me. I remember thinking to myself that I didn't want to grow up and turn into a man. The idea of that was truly horrifying to me, but puberty happened anyway. And as puberty set in, I realized that I was attracted exclusively to boys. Now, everyone was telling me that I was a boy, and I was like, okay, whatever. And I was attracted to other boys, and I learned in church that this was a sin. And so this is another thing that I internalized a lot of shame about, a tremendous amount of shame. And 6th grade too was the time when my grandmother passed away. Now, my grandmother was a remarkable woman, truly remarkable woman. She raised 10 kids basically by herself. My grandfather was kind of he had issues. And he really wasn't there for his kids. And she was a domestic worker. My grandmother was a maid, and she could barely read and write, but she did a lot to take care of her kids. And she's an amazing woman. We called her every single day. And when she passed away, it was a very difficult time for our family. And I remember being up late one night grieving her loss. And I remember I lay in my bed and I imagined that she was up in heaven looking down on me. And I imagined that she knew every single thought that I was having at the time. And I imagined that she was extremely disappointed in me, that I was having what I thought were sinful thoughts about other boys, and the thought of disappointing my grandmother. Her name was Emma Cost. By the way, we called her Medea, sort of like that Tyler Perry character, but not really. So the idea of disappointing Medea, the idea of that made me not want to live. And so I went to our medicine cabinet and took an entire bottle of pills and swallowed them and went to sleep, hoping not to wake up. I did wake up the next day with a terrible stomachache, and I remember saying to myself when I survived that I would do everything that I could to push down those sinful thoughts that I was having about other boys, and I would do everything that I could to act the way that I was supposed to make Medea proud, to make everyone proud. It's important to note that 41% of the transgender population reports having attempted suicide. 41% compared to 1% of the rest of the population. And I'm honestly really emotional right now telling this part of my story because some of you may have heard about a young girl by the name of Leela Alcorn. Who just a few weeks ago took her own life, and her story, she's one of so many young people who don't have the will to carry on because of their circumstances, and her suicide note, which was on Tumblr, kind of went viral, and I want to send a lot of love to Leela and to her family, and I'm so grateful that my suicide attempt was not successful. I think about all of the amazing life that I've been able to live, especially the past year and a half, 2 years or so. And if I hadn't taken my life, I wouldn't be here, and all of you would be here. So I think if for anyone out there who is thinking about ending it, thinking that there is not a reason to live, there's so many reasons. And it's always sort of a cliche, this too shall pass, but it does pass. And I did an It Gets Better video where we sort of talked about that. And for many years, I was like, it gets better for who? Exactly. And I didn't want to do one. And then things kind of did get better for me. not only professionally, but in terms of my sense of loving and accepting myself. But it took a lot of work. It took a lot of work, and it took me learning to not isolate and learning to reach out for help and support, and there is help and support out there. I felt so alone when I was in 6th grade and tried to kill myself, but I wasn't. And I think that's the most important thing, is to know that we're not alone, that there's someone else out there who shares our experiences and who will have our backs if we just know how to reach out. So in my efforts to push down all of my sexuality and gender issues in middle school, I became this overachiever. I became a straight A student in middle school. I was a member of the National Junior Honor Society. I was public speaking champion in 8th grade, countywide. Still proud of that one. And I became vice president of the student council, which to this day still feels really remarkable to me, because the student body voted for me, and these kids did not like me. I was the kid that they chased home from school every day and called names and made fun of. But the year that I won, we all got to make speeches, and right after our speeches, the kids voted, so they didn't have time to think. And I remember the first line of my speech went something like this. Quality is my principle, and qualified is my attitude. What can I say? It was 7th grade. And to this day, I'm not exactly sure what a qualified attitude is. But the kids were like, wow. And to this day, I'm like, wow. And they voted for me, and I became vice president of the student council. And one of the really fun parts about that is the next year, when I was in 8th grade, I got to lead the entire school in the Pledge of Allegiance on the intercom every single day. So all of those kids who did not like me and bullied me and made fun of me had to hear my voice every single day. Success really is the best revenge, and that's all I'm saying. In junior high, I learned about this school in Birmingham, Alabama, which is, Birmingham is 4 hours north of Mobile. And the school is called the Alabama School of Fine Arts. And the second I found out about the Alabama School of Fine Arts, ASFA for short, I knew that I had to go to that school. Now, in the 1980s, there was a television show called Fame. Does anyone know this show called Fame? I loved Fame. I was obsessed with Fame. And the second I found out about ASFA, I knew I had to go there and dance on the tables like they did in the cafeteria. Fame, you know, for those of you who don't know, Fame was a television show in the 1980s which was set in New York City at the High School for Performing Arts. And every like 10 minutes or so there was a musical number, and the kids would dance throughout the halls, and they would dance on the tables in the cafeteria, and they would take these dance numbers out into the streets and dance on the hoods of taxi cabs. It was Glee many, many years before Glee was Glee. And so, of course, I wanted to be a dance major at the Alabama School of Fine Arts, but when I found out about the dance department at ASFA, I found out that it was a ballet-only program. And if you recall, my mother didn't let me take ballet because she thought it was too gay. And I needed to get a scholarship because I couldn't afford to go and, you know, for the dorm fees for the dorms. And I didn't think I'd be able to get a scholarship because I'd never studied ballet before, obviously. And so I had been writing a lot at the time. And so I said, I will submit myself as a creative writing major, get a scholarship, get in, start taking ballet, and then switch my major to dance. And that's exactly what I did. I gotta tell you, I was very, very disappointed when I got to the Alabama School of Fine Arts and the kids did not dance on the tables in the cafeteria. Music did not come through the loudspeakers all